On the hub.
It's Wednesday, which can only mean one thing, a visit from the Godfather himself, Dave Moody, as we listen into his callers for the hot topics of the week.
Plus, if you missed it, Race Hub's Caitlin Vincey sat down with rookie Eric Jones earlier this season to find out how he stays grounded as he goes through the trials and tribulations that come with being a Monster Energy Series driver.
And Hammond and Reagan will kick the show into overdrive. Fans, whose team are you on? Team Jeff or Team David? We continue the NASCAR Goes West Tour with a trip to the desert. The hub is rolling. I can't believe it's already Wednesday.
Yeah.
The week just rolling right along. Welcome into NASCAR Race Hub with Shannon Spake. I'm Adam Alexander. Our show presented by Polaris.
Hey, so do you know what this is?
That's a marshmallow.
It is a marshmallow. Have you ever heard of Chubby Bunny?
I've not heard of Chubby Bunny.
Well,
you going to tell me about it?
We will tell you about it coming up because we're going to go all in.
Okay. Boy, if that's not a tease, I don't know what is.
There you go. Try it. Time now for the Daily Fuel.
Yeah, I'm going to take that out. Okay, the big story of the week was all about what happened last lap Sunday in Las Vegas. Joey Logano, Kyle Busch, they get together, right? So Joey comes back to finish fourth. Kyle Busch spins down the pit lane, finishes 22nd. He was not happy and goes over and takes a swing at Joey on the pit lane. The crews would get involved, but NASCAR announced today no penalties for either driver or team, Shannon.
And that's right. NASCAR's Executive Vice President and Chief Racing Development Officer Steve O'Donnell released this statement. After a full review of multiple videos and discussions with both competitors and their respective race teams, we felt Sunday's post-race incident does not warrant any further action. NASCAR was built on the racing that took place on the final lap by the two drivers battling for position. The emotions of our athletes run high, and Kyle Busch and Joey Logano are two of the most passionate and competitive drivers in the sport. Both competitors are very clear on our expectations going forward, and we will be meeting with them in person prior to practice on Friday in Phoenix.
Plenty of conversation about this on NASCAR Race Up today with our crew chief, Jeff Hammond, our driver, David Reagan. Welcome in. I would shake your hand to welcome you in, but my hands are a little sticky for the marshmallow I had to get out of my mouth.
I can't believe that you caught it. That was impressive. Very impressive.
Well, I do have a big mouth. No comments on that, please. Let's talk about the story of the day. No penalties for either driver, Joey Logano or Kyle Busch. You surprised at NASCAR and how they handled this?
I'm not surprised that there weren't any penalties handed down to the drivers, but I am surprised that there were no penalties or anything about the crew members involved. And I know that they were trying to diffuse the situation a little bit, but they were being a little rowdy. And I've always been taught that, you know, if two drivers have an issue with each other, that's okay to talk about it and even get a little physical sometimes, but crew members, you don't need to be involved.
Well, all they're trying to do is hold it back. I mean, I noticed in one of the shots that one of the security guards had Kyle Busch by the leg, was pulling on him. So let's don't get confused about people trying to separate something when you're trying to control somebody's out of control.
Right.
I'm talking about the way Kyle was thrashing around. Even when they picked him up out of the crowd, the NASCAR official, I thought for a second he was going to take a swing at him. So it's chaotic when something like that's going on. But I think if you don't have the crews helping to diffuse the situation, it could escalate.
Really? I mean, because some would say that the crews were just protecting their driver.
That's your job. I mean, I've never worked for an owner who didn't say, look, if your driver needs to go do something, you back him. And just protect your turf. You know, don't let somebody hurt your driver. This is my most important commodity right here. If he needs to go and you know, express himself to another driver, let him do it, whether it's hollering at him, whether it's grabbing him by the shirt collar, or if it's taking a swing at him. If he feels like it's there, you need to let him do it and get it out of his system.
So obviously that's what NASCAR thought was going on here because there were no penalties handed down.
Yep.
Protecting their driver.
Exactly right.
How aware are you as a driver when you're upset with another driver and you're going to go have a conversation or you realize things could get physical? How aware are you of where your crewmen are and what role they might play?
You're very aware. When you're coming down pit road, you have a lug nut check, and you're already unbuckling your helmets. Kyle already had a jump start, so he knew what he was doing, and he was upset. And as he was walking to Joey's, I don't think he was aware of he was walking to Joey's pit, but I think his mind was made up. He's walking over here and throwing the first punch. There were no discussion, but as a driver, I'm aware of where my background is.
No, and to your point right there, I mean, he was a man on a mission. He went over there. He wasn't going to talk or anything like that. And the other thing is, he didn't call his guys. I mean, people are saying, well, everybody's jumping in here, everybody's doing this. You see a lot of crew members trying to pull people apart, not to try to, escalate the situation. So he didn't ask everybody to come from the 18 team, come up here with me, we're going to get in a brawl. This is not what it's all about. It was driver versus driver, and it's over and done with, and let's just move on.
Hey, David, if your seat is warm, think nothing of it, because Joey was sitting there last night on NASCAR Race Hub. Here's what he had to say about the whole situation.
We've spoken, obviously we didn't speak much there, so we've had a chance to, I called him up earlier today and be able to talk to him a little bit and at least tell him my side of the story. We're going to have two sides of the story like there is all the time, but really the bottom line is we're two passionate race car drivers. We're two of the best in the sport that are going to go for the wins. We're aggressive, and we collided. And that's the part that... it's tough because it's going to happen, and you want to get through it as quick as you can and try to talk it out. But, the bottom line is that it wasn't intentional, and we're going to have to work through it somehow.
Work through it. Okay, so the forgive part is one thing, but the forget part is another thing. How long does it take for these two guys to put it past them? Seriously, like really? Put it past them?
I think they're going to put it past them maybe quicker than we all anticipate. I think that they both got bigger pictures to worry about. They're racing for championships, racing for wins. But I go back to 2015 with Matt Kenseth and Joey Logano at Martinsville and their skirmish. I think Joey learned a little bit from that, and he's probably reached out to Kyle, like he said, and he's going to talk about it, try to diffuse the situation before they get to Phoenix, before they get to California. So they're always going to remember it a little bit in the very, very back of their brain, but I think they'll move on. They've got bigger fish to fry.
Look, I've gotten in fights with my brother. I've gotten in fights with my friends. I mean, you have these moments where something kind of like gets out of control. You lose your cool. And that's what Kyle did. He was upset, feeling like he was being done wrong. And he reacted to it. I really believe that in a few weeks, it'll be over and done with, and they'll be able to race one another. You'll probably see them somewhere in the coach parking lot, sharing a steak or something like that along the way. It will be fine because nobody holds a grudge. I can promise you that. I watched Darrell Waltrip and Dale Earnhardt, who at one time hated each other, become best of friends.
You know who will remember? Us.
Yes.
You won't let them forget it.
And we'll show the video over and over and over.
That's absolutely right. And the interesting thing is if you've watched television anywhere at some point over the last 48 hours, you've seen the fight. It seems like everybody is talking about it, even if they aren't loyal NASCAR fans. Yesterday, our colleague and friend Colin Cowherd weighed in on FS1's The Herd, and here's what Colin had to say.
Michael Jordan was rewarded for punching a teammate, was rewarded for calling guys out. So this is why they fight, because the coaches sell it, the culture sells it, the shoe company sells it, the agent sells it. Everybody's telling guys, be aggressive, be hyper, dominate, don't be weak. And sometimes this is what you can't tell somebody something for years and then be shocked when a NASCAR guy goes after another NASCAR guy. Testosterone, manhood, don't let him cut off, kick his butt. This is what NASCAR is. It's intimidating. It's life or death. Guys are getting all broiled up here. That's the longest I ever talked about NASCAR in my life, over a fight. But everybody's looking at this fight, and I'm like, this is what NASCAR is. It should be. I'll give you an idea. If NASCAR had more of this, NASCAR's biggest problem is the cars go the same speed. It's too safe. You got too many nice guys. When Dale Earnhardt Sr. passed away, you lost your tough guy. You lost your Clint Eastwood. You lost your bully. And you know what? He made it interesting. NASCAR needs a couple bullies. They need a couple tough guys.
Hey, Colin, NASCAR's going to be in California in 2 weeks, so if you want to come on out, you're welcome to come on out. So what I kind of hit on in what Colin just said was, he said this is what NASCAR is. I believe that this is what athletes and any athlete that's in an emotional game or sport is. In other sports, however, football, basketball, they get to take those aggressions out on the next play.
Right.
Well, I mean, what do you think about what he said about that?
I agree with a lot of what Colin had to say, and I think one thing to just remember is this was the last lap. This was the last lap, and not even racing for the win, racing for a 4th, 5th place finish, but Kyle had a split second to park his car on pit road, think about it. Joey's coming down pit road, and he made up his mind, I'm going to go down here and see Joey. Usually, if that happens on lap 10, lap 15, you've got, Jeff Hammond, the crew chief, in your ear saying, look, just calm down, relax. We got a race here. Let's don't get excited. And you've kind of forgotten about the situation, but it happened at the perfect time to where you are upset, the adrenaline's flowing, and he wanted to do something about it.
The thing is, when he mentions the fact this is what the sport is all about, go all the way back to like in the mid-'70s when Petty and Pearson were racing for a win, and they wrecked one another. But it doesn't mean that they didn't, respect one another, but they're trying to win the race. And you see these two, Hall of Famers going at it, as hard as they possibly can, and they wreck one another. But they don't get out and do this. But at the same time, it kind of brought the attention to the sport, as well as like in 1979. I was working for Cale Yarborough at Junior Johnson's, and we're trying to win the Daytona 500. He and Donnie Allison get together. They crash out, and then eventually, because they're arguing with one another, it erupts into a fight, and all of a sudden, the whole world knows about NASCAR. And it didn't stop there. Two other Hall of Famers. We're talking about, Dale Earnhardt and Jeff Gordon. They raced each other as hard as I've ever seen any two drivers race one another, and Dale didn't have a problem with taking him out if he needed to. So it's part of who we are. We're a warrior culture. You bring up a great point. All sports are like that.
Yeah.
When you get into a competition situation, you want to win. You hate to lose. Anybody that likes losing, you don't need to be involved in that sport. You mentioned it. They're going for 4th place, but they are doing their jobs. They're trying to win that race, and when it doesn't go your way, sooner or later, you're going to hit that button, which is
They'll fired up. We're going to hold them back.
Here's the thing.
Hold them back. Hold them
As
back.
sports fans, though, this is what we want out of our favorite driver of the team.
Absolutely.
Passion, emotion, and someone
I want him to win at all costs.
We don't need fights every weekend, but on occasion, I think they're okay.
Speaking of refusing to lose, you two going at it later. You ready for overdrive? And we would love you to play along. Who are you with? Are you Team Jeff, Team Reagan? Log on to foxsports.com/vote and join our Connect Live fan vote. Whose side will it be? We'll find out later.
We will. And 20-year-old Eric Jones climbs his way up the NASCAR ranks. Next, Kalen Vinci has his story on his journey to now piloting the number 77 and his loss off the track. Plus, it's a Moody Wednesday. Like the Moody Blues? No, Moody Wednesday. Callers are all fired up after the fight, and you might be surprised to hear who the fans are siding with. And one race down in NASCAR's Goes West Adventure. Next stop, Phoenix. Find out what the drivers are most concerned about as they prep for that 1-mile trial.
There's never been a last lap pass at Phoenix. Here comes Carl.
He's going to move him up the racetrack. Him up the hill. Wow, look at him slam. It's going to be. Whoa.
Close to call.
I can't call that. I think Harvey got it by a fraction of an inch. 1/100th of a second. What a finish.
Oh, boy, it's going to be exciting this weekend. All right, let's see. At Daytona, we talked about the draft. Atlanta, tires, and Vegas was all about the bumps. Every week, there's a new challenge, and Phoenix certainly has them. So what are they? Well, here's what the drivers have to think.
It's always fun to go to, to Phoenix. Cool racetrack. One of my favorites. My first racetrack that I ever competed.
Seems like Phoenix has always got the most excitement, especially with the dogleg and restarts. And
Turn 1 is a very easy corner to overdrive, and even with as many years experience that I have.
My teammate's really good out there. I'm going to be leaning on him. And
I think since the racetrack has changed at Phoenix, what you really work on the most is just getting your car right on both ends. It's always been a challenge there, but
I was probably better, with the old worn-out surface and softer tires.
Seems like it's more of a challenge now with the difference in banking and the difference in radius than what the old track used to be like.
I think you have to have a car that maintains that turn for the last half of the fuel load, and that's really where you see the guys who are successful year in, year out. That's what they have.
All right. right, David Reagan here now to talk about Phoenix and some of the challenges that the drivers will have. The thing I took out of that was you hear Denny Hamlin say, turn 1 is easy to overdrive. Tell me why.
And Denny's really good at Phoenix. He's won some races here, but turn 1 is a very tight radius. You're driving hard into turn 1. A lot of times you're looking directly at the sun, and so it's hard to find your spot. Let's take a look, turn 1, at one of the issues we had here in the fall of last year. Alex Bowman doesn't get a great start. Matt Kenseth squeezes on him a little bit. They're all fighting for the same piece of real estate, and they don't come out of turn 2 in one piece.
So it looks to me like the 20 comes down on the 88. Is that avoidable?
It is, but man, these guys are going for the win. I think there's just a few laps left here, and so Matt Kenseth probably thinks, hey, Alex Bowman, he's a young guy, he's a rookie. He might not drive it in quite as hard. He's going to be aggressive and try to squeeze down on him. And you've got Kyle Busch there behind Alex Bowman trying to make it 3 wide. So it's just a very tight radius, and there's not a lot of room for error.
Okay, so 1's the challenge, but there are just as many wrecks in turn 3 as there is in 1. Why?
Yeah, right here, there's not a lot of banking. Kyle Larson in the 42 and Logano in the 22, they get together. You drive into turn 3, and it's very flat. Turn 3 is very different from turn 1 and 2, and so Larson doesn't have a lot of banking to lean on. Logano's tight on his outside. Not a lot of air on the right rear quarter panel. The tires are really constructed a stiff manner, so you don't have a lot of room to wiggle and move. So it's very easy to get in too hard and slip up and hit someone.
So not a lot of banking in turn 3. Low downforce. Is this where the guys might feel it the most?
The guys are going to feel the most insecurity on entry because they just don't have a lot of aerodynamic, downforce pressing on their race cars. So they're going to have to back off the corner a little bit, maybe use a little more brakes. And it's going to be really hot this week.
It is. It's going to be hot. Low downforce, short race. So those guys, every restart is going to be trying to get as much as they possibly can. So we're going to get out of here. We're going to let the guys come in and talk about pit road because we've seen some issues over the last few weeks on pit road. Here comes Adam and Jeff. Here's what some of the drivers have had to say about what's really going on there.
Everybody's just pushing it. Everybody's trying to get the most they can, and every once in a while somebody's going to get busted for it.
I think everyone's just pushing it. They're pushing to get everything you can because it takes everything to win these races.
Definitely, you have to be more cautious with the new segments in the pit road.
When you look at how many segments they've added, we only spend about a second in a given segment.
They're pretty short, but
the driver's trying to get the most out of their pit road time. It's people just pushing.
Really, it's about bringing down your speed, period, because you can never recover.
But that's part of racing. I think everyone is getting used to it.
Let me share some numbers with you. These are in-race infractions so far in 2017. And the one big area of concern, next to last line, speeding on pit road. And where we had a lot of issues, race 2 Atlanta Motor Speedway, 20 so far this season. It has become a problem. But when we went to Phoenix last fall, they had added those timing lines, Jeff. Only 1 pit road speeding penalty. Does that surprise you?
I think it kind of scared everybody. They added lines, number 1. But also getting on this pit road, you've got to get the car slowed down enough because it's not got a lot of what you might say banking to help you carry speed on the pit road. What are you smiling at me like for?
You say you got to get the car slowed down. And I'm just thinking about our first clip here. Watch Ryan Newman in the 31. He was not successful in that category.
And that's exactly what I'm talking about. You've got to get the car under control. And he didn't. He came in so hot and so hard. He started wheel hopping the car. It got out of control. He gets in the back of the 42, spins him around. Both of them are just lucky they could continue.
Larson somehow was able to come back and finish 3rd in this race.
And that's hard to do.
Now let's go on board with Joey Logano. And you see what happens here. Pit road continues through turns 1 and all the way around to turn 2.
Yeah, literally, you come right off the front straightaway and you follow it down through the corner right there. The only thing different is you're not up on the banking. It's just flat down through here. But you've got to keep turning the car, hunting for your pit box. He had to make an unscheduled stop because he didn't get the car full. But you see when he makes the exit, he's basically going right back down the back straightaway.
Joey was in pit stall 2. In pit stall 1 last year was Kyle Busch. What happens to him right here?
He comes in too hard. He overshoots his pits. He doesn't get the nose of the car turned out. And what happens is he gets over that line. He's got to back up, get off the airline. Now, when you take a look what's going on, because he didn't get the nose turned out, look at the distance between here and the car, pit wall and the car. There's not enough room here. All of a sudden, his jackman's at a deficit, the tire changer's at a deficit, and so is the tire carrier. He cannot get it done. Here's that turn 1 we're talking about, and over there is turn 2.
Over here. I mean,
right
he's
over
exiting,
there.
as you said,
He's
onto
exiting.
the back straightaway.
It's a very challenging pit road, and a lot of things can happen. It can get you in a lot of trouble.
Where is the easiest place to pass at any racetrack?
Right there on pit road.
All right. Some guys doing it better than others at Phoenix. We'll see how it goes this weekend. And we got action on Fox both Saturday and Sunday. Kevin Harvick, who's the Desert King, in the booth with Michael and me Saturday afternoon, 3:30 Eastern Time for the Xfinity Series race. And then on Sunday, it's Monster Energy NASCAR Cup Series on track for the 4th time, 3 p.m. Eastern on Fox, or you can watch it live at Fox Sports Go. We are back after a break. Alan Cavana at BK Racing, where it looks like he's trying to get a sneak peek at Greg Galding's ride for the weekend. Alan, keep your hands off for now. No peeking, my friend. And Eric Jones has made it to the big leagues. He's living out his dream, but one very important piece is now missing from his life puzzle. Caitlin Vincey sat down with Jones to get his touching story.
You know, obviously kind of unexpected time for me, not something that 20 years old you really think about too much. My dad was a big part of my racing life and a big part of, you know, everything outside racing.
There are 3 words that best describe the 3 weeks when NASCAR goes west. They are frequent flyer miles. You agree
Red
with that?
eyes stink.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I don't like the red-eye flight either. Anyway, while air travel is truly true for most, some are doing this behind the wheel of a semi-truck. Back-to-back-to-back races on the left coast isn't easy on anyone, not even our own David Reagan.
NASCAR Goes West is tough on my mind. I'd say the biggest challenge is scheduling it all.
Really, the most difficult part of NASCAR Goes West is just traveling back and forth.
I think it's 27 hours of flight time for those 3 race weekends. You realize about 2 weeks into it that you're like, I'm ready to get back home.
The toughest thing is not so much on me, but it's really the crew.
You've got to transport these race cars back and forth across the country and have 6 or 7 cars ready to go because you don't have the time to get back, fix one, and take them.
Bringing additional haulers back and forth, it's a pretty big undertaking.
Once you get through that, it's like a sigh of relief, and it's also a sense of accomplishment that, hey, we made it through it, especially being a small team. That's a lot of preparation for that trip.
So some teams stay out west while some go back and forth, but it's no doubt a bigger undertaking for less funded teams. So how do they deal with this West Coast swing? Well, Alan Cavana spent some time at BK Racing to find out.
Shannon, big day here at BK Racing for Greg Galding and the team. We'll get to that in a second, but we were just talking about NASCAR Goes West and traveling back and forth. What kind of challenge is that for the team and the driver?
It's definitely tough for the team, but I feel like everybody at BK Racing and Toyota, you know, we got our stuff together. It's just, it's pretty cool that we're racing out west right now. It's definitely tough on the hauler drivers, but everybody here at BK Racing is very prepared before we left and be able to get our race cars out there and still have great race cars once we get to Phoenix this weekend.
This is a big day for you and the team, unveiling a sponsor that'll be on the car for a majority of the remaining races. How important is that to this team and your development?
Oh, it's so important. We're so thankful to have Sunfrog.com. You know, it's so cool to bring a new brand into the Monster Energy NASCAR Cup Series and also to brand with me, you know, as a young driver growing through the sport and growing BK Racing as well. They're one of the world's largest online apparel printing companies in the world. So very cool, and I'm very excited to start this partnership for a long time.
You just turned 19, but you've been doing this a long time. People have known your name for a while, and now you're at the top level of the sport. I mean, is it hard to believe sometimes for a young man?
Yeah, it's so hard to believe, but it just takes a lot of hard work, a lot of dedication from my family and from myself, and just dedicating my life to this. And we're getting ready to go to one of my favorite tracks, Phoenix International Raceway. So I'm super excited for not only this weekend and our partnership with sunfrog.com, but I'm just super excited for the rest of the season.
Well, good luck in Phoenix this weekend. Shannon Gray Galding, a member of an impressive rookie class.
Yes, he is, Alan. You know, one team that doesn't mind the West Coast swing as much is Furniture Row Racing. The Denver-based team doesn't have to put as many miles on those haulers as they do when they crisscross the country to the East Coast. And what a start to the swing. Martin Truex Jr. goes to victory lane, and Eric Jones was fast, real fast last Sunday. But getting to NASCAR's top series has not been easy for the 20-year-old. Challenges on the track and tragedy off of it. So how has he managed all of it? Well, Caitlin Vincey spent some time with him to find out.
Second career victory in the NASCAR Xfinity Series. Eric Jones, a winner.
Coming down across the stripe for the fourth time this season, it's Eric Jones.
The youngest champion ever in the Camping World Truck Series, Eric Jones.
When you kind of look at your career from trucks to Xfinity now to Cup, has it moved fast for you, or do you feel like it's been a pretty natural progression?
No, it's moved pretty fast. You know, I think I started racing full-size stock cars in 2009, and I was 13, and that's not that long ago. Once I got in the truck, things just really ramped up. I was 2013, I ran 5 truck races. 2014, I ran a few more and then ran some Xfinity races, which was great. I had all the opportunities, you know, you could ask for at 16, 17, 18 years old. And it was interesting to see how it all played out. At times, especially in 2015, I felt overwhelmed where I was running, you know, I ran upwards of 50, almost 60 races, but all of it was pretty beneficial.
So we know what makes you an extraordinary 20-year-old, but what makes you an ordinary one?
Number one, I've lived in this house for about 3 years, and I've never painted any walls in here. I have trouble keeping the place clean. I never have food in my fridge. I can barely cook. I could probably go on for quite a while about things that make me a pretty ordinary 20-year-old. The only thing that I don't do that's ordinary for a 20-year-old, I think, is drive race cars.
I'm 29, and our list is pretty similar, so I don't know what that says about me.
You know, I don't see my future changing much anyways either, so I think I'll be on the same level.
My dad, we need to announce that sometime he actually got diagnosed with cancer. You know, pretty emotional. It was the first race win that they haven't been here for, so hard to hold the emotions back for that one.
Last season, just a difficult year for you in the personal sense, losing your father. What were some things you did to try and get you through that time in your life?
It was tough. You know, obviously kind of unexpected time for me, not something that at 20 years old you really think about too much. My dad was a big part of my racing life and a big part of, you know, everything outside of racing, my finances and everything I did, he helped me. You know, it's crazy to work out. I was racing in Michigan the week he passed away. Luckily, I was racing in Michigan. I wouldn't have wanted to be anywhere else but home. So racing that weekend was definitely tough for me, but I think I grew a lot throughout the whole process. But definitely a different world, you know, here today without him being here.
After the year you experienced last year, what did you learn kind of about your support system?
If I had anything going on, I'd call my dad, go through him, what do you think, and then we'd work it out. Losing that and having to build kind of a support system around me has been a big thing. Obviously, my family's there. It's been tough to try to build that support system without my dad and figure out everybody's role because he did do so much, and kind of reorganizing that has probably been the toughest thing for me.
For you, looking at Furniture Row Racing, with everything they'd already done with Martin Truex Jr., what was kind of going through your mind when you realized, hey, I'm going to be in the Cup Series next year?
It's a huge burden to start another team at any company, especially when they've been a one-car team for so long. So to get all those pieces in place was kind of a long time in the making. And finally, when it was like, yeah, this is going to happen, we've got a sponsor in 5 Hour Energy, you know, that was a big day for me. Growing up, any young kid that wants to race in NASCAR wants to race at the Cup level. And to be one of the 40 guys, not only to get to do it, but get to do it in a top-tier ride is just huge.
Looking around here at all the trophies, what are the goals for this year? What trophies do you want to add to the list?
I'd love to just add one trophy. Just to get one race win in the Cup Series in my first year would be a huge accomplishment for me.
Such a tough thing for anybody to go through. And when you lose your dad, and he is also your biggest supporter in racing, You lose your guide in the sport as well as your best friend off of the track.
Yeah, I've already experienced that. And I have a lot of understanding of what this young man's dealing with right now because my dad got me into racing. He gave me a lot of guidance. I could always pick up the phone if I had a bad day and talk to him. He made me feel better. He was there to encourage. So hopefully he's got, like he says, that support group that'll help him get through this situation. But it's a tough challenge right now for this young man.
What's always impressed me about Eric Jones, not just how talented he is, but how smart he is. And he understands the challenges that he faces as a rookie and with a team that is adding a second car. Not easy. Now, we found out on Sunday that other car, the 78, still very fast. But I want you to look at where he ended up at Atlanta and Las Vegas. Top 15, 2 tough races, very difficult racetrack for this kid. That's a nice way to start, David.
Those 2 top 15s in Atlanta and Las Vegas, I think those are chase caliber races. I think you can make the playoffs by averaging a top 14, top 15 place finish, and he's going to get better. They're going to have some bumps along the road, but man, he's got a great teammate to lean on, and Martin Truex Jr. and that Toyota team, and he's still part of that Joe Gibbs Racing banner. Talks to Kyle, talks to Matt, to Denny, and so he's been fast. He's shown some speed, but he's done a really good job these first few weeks.
He's had speed. They've struggled on pit road. For a young driver to overcome that emotionally and to get back out there and have some of those finishes, what does that say about his growth and his potential?
Well, a lot of potential, definitely so, but you've got to work on some of these problems right here. The pit crew's got to pick it up a little bit. He's got to do a better job getting on pit road, getting in his pit box, and getting back into competition. I mean, and that's just one of those things that you do as far as the learning curve. It's not anything more than that. Give him a couple more races and a lot of stuff will start being a little easier. Everybody says, well, he did it last year in the Xfinity Series. This is not the Xfinity Series, is it?
No, it's a lot different. It's a lot different.
And didn't you guys just talk about pit road at Phoenix?
Exactly.
Having some challenges.
You were listening.
I do. I listen every once in a while to you guys. Still to come on the hub, our main man, Dave Moody. He's listening. He's listening to the callers, and he's ready for us to join him next as we get ready for the Pulse.
Welcome back to NASCAR Race Hub. I'm Adam Alexander. It's time for the Pulse. This is where we're live on FS1 and Sirius XM NASCAR Radio. Joining us, the Godfather, Dave Moody. So, Dave, what is that box you use to take in all the calls daily? You know what you call that thing?
The box? Yeah.
My point is, as many calls as you've been getting this week, the box is probably broken by now. Am I right?
Yeah, we blew the walls out of the box at about 3:05 on Monday afternoon. It's been crazy, Adam. Some people are on Kyle's side. Some people are on Joey's side. Some people are just mad at them both.
Isn't it nice to see Truex have some good luck instead of bad luck?
The race was great. Happy for Truex. We're just thrilled that he won.
That final lap, that made things very interesting. I understand he had to make a move, but I didn't see Joey retaliate.
That's the passion we look for in racing. But when you start to take a swing at somebody, you start to cross the line.
I have a lot of respect for the talent Kyle has, but his temper is just out of control.
If I'm stupid enough to get out of my car and go rushing into somebody's pit with my fist up and trying to hit him in the face, then I probably deserve to get the kicked out of me is the way I look at it. Because
all right. Nice talking to you.
I do believe some of your callers showing as much passion as Kyle Busch after the race. Hey, we found out earlier in the show from NASCAR, no penalties day. What did the callers say this week? Should there have been penalties handed out?
Surprisingly, Adam, they're about 50-50 on that. We took a poll earlier in the week and asked people, should Kyle Busch or anybody else be fined? It was 51-49 yes, which is, out of 25,000 people is a pretty slim margin. And the reaction we've taken since the announcement earlier today has been pretty much down those lines as well.
I said this on Monday's NASCAR Race Hub. I think these two, Joey and Kyle, great candidates for rivals in the sport. They're young, they're talented, they spend a lot of time at the front. But for the fans, whose side have they taken in this back and forth?
Really, Adam, again, it's been 51-49, 50-50 either way. A lot of people don't think anybody did anything wrong on the racetrack. They might differ with Kyle Busch's choice to go down there and just throw a punch without saying much of anything first. But there's a lot of leeway in our fan base race today? Nobody really seems to all be gathering on one side of the question.
And a lot of fans weighing in on social media, sending us their tweets, and we appreciate them playing along as well. And buried in all of this fight talk throughout the week has no doubt been another dominant performance for Martin Truex Jr. We saw this a lot a year ago, and here we are, race 3, and already the 78 out front, winning and leading a bunch of laps. What did we learn about that team on Sunday, Dave?
We learned that they're just as good as they were last year, that they have the ability to go out there and dominate the day the way Martin Truex Jr. did at the Coke 600 in Charlotte last year, stunk up the show from start to finish, looked like he was going to lose this one at the last minute, and for a change, somebody else, Brad Keselowski in this instance, had the bad luck to hand a race back to Martin Truex Jr.
Before we move on, Truex won 4 times last year, early win this year. How many victories does he get, do you think?
Boy, I'll tell you, the sky's the limit for that race team right now. Not only is he running well, his rookie teammate Eric Jones is running extremely well. I would have no problem predicting 4, 5, maybe 6 wins for Martin Truex this year.
Woo, that's a big number. Hey, speaking of big numbers, Kevin Harvick puts them up at Phoenix. Although they weren't as good in November, what do we expect out of driver 4 this weekend in the desert?
Listen, when you win 2/3 of your starts, when you're batting .666 over the last 9 or 10 races, you're the guy to beat until somebody beats you. And they had a good test there earlier this year. I think they're going to be hard to guard again this time around.
And I think he's motivated. As if Kevin Harvick needed any added motivation. They didn't hit the sweet spot in November. I know he wants to get it done this weekend. Dave, great having you with us. We'll see you next week.
See you then, Double A. Thank you.
And don't forget, when we continue on the Hub, it is Overdrive. David versus Jeff. Whose team are you on? Go to foxsports.com and answer our questions. Some fun when this Wednesday edition of NASCAR Race Hub rolls on. We're glad you're with us on FS1. It is time for Overdrive on NASCAR Race Hub. Jeff versus David. We encourage you to play along at home. Go to foxsports.com/vote. When we put the questions in, you can tell us what you think, and we'll see who the winner is. And I want the 2 of you to be listening for the buzzer. Listen for the buzzer right here. There it is.
I didn't think it was going to come.
I didn't either. I was worried.
I'm not playing.
Oh, yours is for real.
No, this is an overdrive is not what you did when you were 16 learning how to drive a car.
That's right. Are you ready? First question. Here we go. David, you start us off. Is this the year Ford reclaims the manufacturer title? Last year they won it, 2002. Go.
Yeah, they will reclaim the Ford manufacturer's title this season. They've got Stewart-Haas Racing coming on board, a Daytona 500 already. And guess what? They've got Penske, Roush Fenway Racing, the Wood Brothers. They've got a lot of good cars. I think they're going to win it this year.
2002 is how long it's been. Guess who they're going to have to go through to get there? The guys who won it last year. Last weekend should tell you, even though it looked like it was going to be a walkover year for Ford, Toyota's back. They're not giving it up. And, oh, by the way, there's a guy named Chevrolet. They also have one more than you have.
Chevrolet a guy named Chevrolet? I don't know. Anyway, the first one's going to go to Team David because the folks at home say, yes, Ford will get back the manufacturer title.
All right, Jeff, here we go. You ready? I'm going to throw a softball. No, I'm just kidding. Will Martin Truex Jr. win the most races this season?
I want to hear you argue about that. Yes, he will, because he's gotten out of the box earlier than he did last year. He's got a little bit of luck on his side now. He didn't have it a year ago. This guy is going to be dangerous. He's going to be one of the biggest and best contenders all year long to wind up winning his first championship and winning a lot of races.
I don't know if the luck can keep going. Martin Truex Jr. will be fast. He will win a few races, but he can't win the most. He's got too much competition.
What do you mean? Listen to what Dave Moody said. He's the godfather. He said he's going to win a lot of races. Adam's already asked him the question, 5 or 6.
Mistake prone. Too many mistakes.
No way.
Martin Truex Jr. looking for that horseshoe that Jimmy Johnson had a couple of years ago, right? Let's see. It is Hammond down. We got David Reagan.
Who's
this?
I think David Reagan. David Reagan's got the horseshoe right now. Okay, a little buzz out there right now about the possibility of Indianapolis Motor Speedway taking the Brickyard 400, moving it from the oval to the road course. David, should this happen? Huh?
It needs to go to O'Reilly Raceway Park is where it needs to go.
All right, I'm in on that.
I agree. I'm Team David on this one.
But if it's got to stay at Indianapolis Motor Speedway, we've got to run the Brickyard, the oval. We have to stay on the oval at the Brickyard.
You know, one of the biggest arguments we've ever had since the first time we went there and tested, do stock cars belong on that racetrack? It's not designed for that. I believe, why not try the road course? We're still racing in Indianapolis. And let me ask you a question, my friend. What's it all about? The fans or about us? If we can give a better race for the fans, that's what we need to do.
69% say yes. Jeff, I'm feeling good about you. David's up 2-1.
We should have put the ORP on there as well. That
and David would have won 100%.
Yeah, he would have. Okay, so next question for you guys. We've got a lot of young guys, a lot of young drivers looking for that first win. Who does it? Which driver gets his first win this season?
I'm glad you asked me that question. This is an easy one right here. Chase Elliott. He's been knocking on the door for a year. He's off to a really good start. I want to hear you tell me who's going to wind up beating him, because this young man, he is destined for victory lane.
That's a good choice. That's good. But Mr. 21, Ryan Blaney, in a Ford to help that manufacturer's title.
You just won't turn it loose, will you?
He's going to keep coming. But he's been knocking on the door of the top 5 in points. It's going to be a battle. It may be between the two of them coming down for that first win, but I think Ryan's going to edge out. They're hungry. The Wood brothers back full-time racing for a second consecutive year.
It still don't matter. Chase Elliott all the way.
They want it.
Oh, Chase Elliott.
Oh.
Chase Elliott.
I think we got a new game here, big boy.
There you go.
All right, we're right back where we started.
Yep.
2 for Team David, 2 for Team Jeff. Question number 5. Who are you taking this weekend at Phoenix? Is it Kevin Harvick or the field? The other 39 drivers. Where are you going, David?
Give me that number 4, Kevin Harvick. He's due to win another one. The stats, it's just like playing the roulette table. You got to keep throwing that number 4. I think he's going to hit jackpot. Even though we're not in Vegas, he's going to win this weekend.
You know, I've been with an organization that won a lot of races at Bristol, but sooner or later it's got to end. And this weekend it wound up ending because of the fact that there's a guy named Dale Earnhardt Jr. who went out there and tested. He's won there before. He'll be really good. Brad Keselowski, also in a Ford, young man. He won there in the fall. Martin Truex Jr., he is coming off a lot of momentum. Anybody else I want to say as far as momentum is concerned?
I don't care. Let me tell you, you did a great job, Jeff, but unfortunately didn't pay off at home. 69% say Kevin Harvick.
They've been reading
They're with Team David.
Yeah.
David wins 3-2. But we have a bonus question.
I thought you were going to.
Absolutely not.
I was headed home.
This is not going to count towards a win, so David's got it, but this is a bonus question. So, what?
We're going to have a question and we didn't count?
It's going to be a fun question, all right?
Oh, come on.
So we know that Dale Earnhardt Jr. is new to this whole cycling thing, right? But there was a little exchange between Lance Armstrong and Jimmy Johnson and Dale Earnhardt. So here's the question. Should Dale Jr. get new socks? Cycling socks. Take a look. You could see them right there.
After he wins his first race, maybe Lance should give him some. So I think he's got to win in 2017.
Give me a break. Got to win.
Yeah, he needs to win before he gets new socks.
He needs to change these socks because they don't look good.
No.
I honestly don't know what's wrong
give me a break.
No.
I can't. Come on, make it.
But with those white legs, the socks.
He needs to change them.
He's got more problems.
They're kind of split right now. 55% say yes. Dale Earnhardt Jr.
That should count. That should count.
You did still lose, though, 3-2.
You lost 3-2.
Yeah, this one didn't count.
I see a new sponsorship coming on board here for the 88.
Yeah, Dale Jr., he's going to get some socks. Maybe that same kind Brett Favre's always wearing. You know what I mean?
We're going to tell you what Chubby Bunny is coming up next.
Oh, yes, the payoff.
You know what's not a secret? Kevin Harvick is really good at Phoenix. That's what's not a secret. Thursday, we're going to crunch the numbers right here on the Hub. There's 2 dark horses who have never finished outside the top 10 in Phoenix in any of NASCAR's 3 national series. Tomorrow, find out who could play spoiler to Harvick.
And it's been 2 years since Casey Kane went to victory lane in a cup race, but the 5 team has been good so far this season. Alan Cavana heads to Hendrick Motorsport to find out what's got things going in the right direction. Back at 6 tomorrow. It's NASCAR Race Hub on FS1.
So this show is all about fun. We're having fun. And today, Social Garage is a lot of fun. Compliments of Penske Racing and Penske's Facebook page. They had a little fun with their drivers and the Chubby Bunny Challenge. If you haven't heard about it, take a look.
Hello, everybody, and welcome back to round 2 of the Penske Games, an intriguing round where you stuff as many marshmallows into your mouth as you can and say Chubby Bunny.
No.
Joey Logano the scratch with nothing.
That doesn't help. In case you're wondering.
I thought it would help. It doesn't get any smaller when you squeeze it. Using the technique, and he finds it funny. Lania cannot contain his amusement. Keselowski with the 4 mellow shove. And there's a bit of a gag for Brad. And a reversal of fortune. He's out after 7.
Okay, so we're going to try this. Of course we're going to try it, but since we only have about a minute left in the show, we're doing 2 at a time. Ready?
Go, Jeff. Put 2 in. Don't be cheating.
Say it. Chubby Bunny. You can't
Chubby Bunny.
Chubby Bunny. Chubby Bunny.
2 more, guys.
2 more. Chubby Bunny.
Chubby Bunny. Jeff's got a big mouth.
Go, 30 seconds. Okay, I can't talk. All right, no, I'm not doing it. Chubby Bunny, go.
Chubby Bunny.
All right, how many is that? 5?
Chubby Bunny.
You have such a southern accent, I can understand him more. Okay,
Chubby Bunny.
we're going to continue this game. Race Hub is back tomorrow at 6 p.m. right here on MS1.